She was just 7 years old. A pink life vest strapped around her shoulders, her laugh echoing across the dock of a summer camp in Lake Placid. One moment she was there, counted in the head check, waving at her friend Sarah. The next, she was gone. No screams, no splashes, just silence and a whistle left behind. 14 years later, a young woman walks back through the camp gates, not as a camper, but as the new counselor. Her name is Olivia Sullivan. And no one here knows that she is the same girl who once vanished into the night. This is the story of secrets buried under campfires, of a truth hidden behind locked doors, and of a daughter who finally came back to face the past. Before we begin, tell me, where in the world are you watching from? I read every single comment, and I truly love our interaction. Night settled over Lake Placid like a held breath. The dock lights at Camp Hollow Pines flickered the way they always had, once, twice, then steady, casting thin ladders of gold across black water. Mosquitoes wrote their jittery alphabets in the glow. In the tree line, a loon called so far away it sounded like a memory someone forgot to put down. Olivia Sullivan stepped from the shuttle van and felt the boards give under her weight. Pine sap and damp rope, sunscreen ghosts ground into the deck, the metallic tang of canoe chains. It was all still here. The wind pushed the scent of wood smoke over the lake, and for a second she tasted childhood, lemonade powder that never fully dissolved, grape popsicles, the paper-dry feel of friendship bracelets against a sunburn. "Counselors, to the rec hall!" A voice curved out across the water, the practice cheer of summer jobs. The man at the megaphone wore a director's lanyard and a tired smile. Jack Reynolds. He looked older than the newspaper photos she'd found, older than the voice she remembered barking safety rules from the shoreline. A baseball cap shadowed his eyes. He did not look at her twice. No one did. That was the plan. Olivia rolled her suitcase past the craft cabin with its peeling sign, Hollow Pines, Esther, 1976, and the door that always stuck in humidity. Kids would arrive tomorrow. Tonight it was just staff. In the mess hall, long tables waited like low rafts. Dust motes drifted in the projector light. Someone tested the sound system. A camp anthem bled tinnily from the speakers and died in feedback. She paused by the corkboard near the kitchen hatch. 4 push pins outlined a rectangle where a flyer once lived. Now it held a new sheet. Welcome, counselors. Orientation, 7 p.m. Her hand rose before she could stop it, fingertips hovering over empty cork as if she could feel the edges of the paper that used to be there. She had seen the missing poster 1,000 times on the internet, printed, scanned, re-uploaded, until the pixels blurred into uncertainty. A 7-year-old with rain-dark hair and a pink life vest, last seen near the dock, last seen laughing. The caption had said, "If you know anything, call." Most people stopped calling after a year. 14 years later, the phone still sat in her mother's kitchen in upstate New York, mute beside a bowl of keys. "Olivia?" A counselor with a messy bun stuck out her hand. "I'm Sarah, returning staff. Bunkhouse C?" The name hit her like a door slamming softly. Sarah Mitchell, childhood friend. Girl with glitter nail polish who once traded a jelly bracelet for a secret. Sarah's smile wobbled, then held. "You look familiar." "First time here," Olivia said, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Calm voice, steady eyes. She'd practiced that sentence until it lost weight. "Kitchen's through there," Sarah went on, pointing. "Best coffee is from the back pot. The front pot tastes like canoe water." She laughed at her own joke. "Jack's strict about curfew, but he's fair. Orientation starts in 5. Olivia's gaze slid to the kitchen, passed through. Behind the swinging doors, a shape moved, someone stacking industrial trays, a quick, efficient rhythm. A hum drifted out, a tune as simple as a nursery rhyme. Something in her chest tightened. She felt the old scar itch, the crescent on her left shoulder she always covered with a sleeve. She pressed her palm there, like a person checking for a heartbeat. The dock lights flickered again. A breeze lifted napkins, rattled bunks, sent a squall of ripples across the black water. Somewhere, a whistle blew, 2 short bursts. It was just a test. It still made her flinch. She turned toward the rec hall, blending into a line of new hires. Her suitcase wheels clicked over the floor's nail heads. From the doorway behind her, a woman's voice softened into a single word she hadn't heard out loud in 14 years. Livy? Movement was May Sullivan's answer to anything that hurt. When bills piled up, she switched shifts. When landlords raised the rent, she found a new place near a bus line. When questions got too close, she packed boxes with tape, labeled in neat black letters, Winter, Kitchen, School, and said, Fresh Start. To neighbors, she was Aunt May, a woman who worked in cafeterias and diners and could stretch a chicken through Wednesday. To Olivia, she was gravity and routine and the soft clink of a spoon against a mug. There were stories May did not tell, why they moved every August, why she shut the TV off when camp commercials came on, why Olivia hated the sound of water lapping at wood and had a crescent scar on her left shoulder she couldn't remember getting. On forms, May wrote Sullivan in block letters and Olivia in loops. Asked about family history, she checked unknown. Asked about scars, she wrote childhood fall. May celebrated the truths that didn't wobble. A small scholarship to community college, a volunteer badge from the YMCA where Olivia learned to keep beginners calm in deep water. The day Olivia's 4th grade teacher said, she notices everything. Olivia could explain those things. She could show you how to count heads on a dock, how to tie a figure-8 knot, how to say eyes on me in a voice that cut through noise. Skills were safe. That winter, the flu stuck to May and would not let go. Fatigue turned into tests and then into a diagnosis that came with Latin roots and quiet nods. On a January afternoon, the color of old photographs, May pressed an envelope into Olivia's palm. For the day you need it, she said. Inside was a photo bent at the edges from being handled too much. A little girl at the lip of a dock, rain-dark hair, a pink life vest, a grin that looked borrowed from a braver child. Water stretched behind her like hammered glass. On the back, in May's neat hand, Summer Lake. Olivia looked up. Who is she? May rested her head against the chair. You, she said, careful, like feet finding stones across a stream. I found you at a camp. I kept you because I believed I was saving you. I kept you because I loved you. I should have told you sooner. How old was I? 7, May said. And my parents? May looked at the frost crusting the window. Alive, she said softly. Then, the rest is complicated. Complicated became the shape of the months that followed. Doctors' offices, forms that called Olivia next of kin, a casserole rotation from church ladies who remembered May's lemon bars. When May died in March, a neighbor pressed Olivia's hands and said she was proud of you. And Olivia thought, that part is not complicated. Grief made the apartment smell like ivory soap and coffee gone cold. It left rust-colored tea rings on the counter. In the hall closet, a shoebox weighted with more fragments, a Hollow Pines brochure, yellowed to the color of old newsprint, canoeing, archery, friendship by the fire, and a payroll stub stamped Mabel Klein. Same handwriting. Same neat block letters. Under position, one word. Kitchen. A week after the funeral, Olivia booked a bus north. In the Albany station, she opened the envelope and touched the photo's soft corner until her thumbnail left a white crescent. 14 years. Camps turned over staff every summer. No one would connect a counselor's name with a child's face half remembered from an old headline. She applied for a summer internship, legal name, current address, lifeguard certification, and mailed it to a Lake Placid P.O. box. She told herself the reasons were practical. She needed work. She was good with kids. The lake had owned her fear long enough. Under that, an unshareable reason pulsed. Answers don't come find you. You go where you lost them. When the acceptance email landed, it asked if she could be on site by June 10th. She bought a second-hand duffel, shipped a box of paperbacks ahead, first aid and Adirondack birds, and marked the date on a sticky note. She thought she had made peace with the plan. Then the shuttle pulled into hollow pines, and the air tasted like pine and smoke, and a whistle chirped twice, and behind the kitchen door a woman's voice said a name no one else knew anymore. Livy? She didn't turn. She lined up with the other counselors, nodded through rules, smiled when Sarah offered coffee. If anyone asked how she knew the campus map, she'd shrug and say, "I studied online." If anyone asked why she startled at thunder, she'd blame a soccer coach's whistle. The story would hold as long as she held still. At the end of orientation, Jack said, "We lock the kitchen side door after lights out. Always have." His smile faltered. Almost nothing, then returned. Olivia felt the past shift under her feet, like boards settling. Whatever happened here had not been filed away and forgotten. It had been locked, and locks have keys. The first sign was the humming. It threaded out of the kitchen each morning before sunrise, a soft, unshowy melody that curved the same way every time, up 2 notes, down 3, hold on the last. Olivia heard it while she stacked life vests by the dock, the quiet tune landing like a fingertip against an old bruise. On the second morning, she found an excuse to step through the swinging doors. "Need extra cups," she told the woman at the industrial sink. Steam fogged the room. Trays clattered. The woman wore a hairnet and a name tag that said D.E. The tune fell away when she looked up. "Cups are on the left, sweetheart," Dee said, scrubbing a pan. Her eyes, a deep, tired brown, held on Olivia a beat too long. "You knew?" "First summer." Olivia reached for a stack of paper cups. The cardboard was hot through her fingers. "I'm Olivia." Dee's gaze flicked to the scar peeking from Olivia's sleeve and back. The pause was a whisper. "You look like someone I used to know," she said, voice low enough to be swallowed by the dishwasher's roar, back when this place had a different kind of quiet. Olivia managed a smile. "Must be the haircut." Dee didn't smile back. "Uh-huh." She turned off the tap and set the pan to dry. "Watch your step around the side door. It swells when it rains. Sticks open." "I thought it was locked after lights out," Olivia said too quickly. "Policy says it is." Dee's eyes went patient and unreadable. "Doors are funny things. Depends who's holding them." By afternoon, the camp had found its pace. The scream laughs from the lake, the sharp echo of a basketball against the court, the damp slaps of flip-flops rushing toward dinner. Olivia moved through it like a person walking inside a photograph that had once been hers. She led a canoe class, corrected a paddle grip, asked a homesick kid about their dog back home in Queens. After lights out, the counselors debriefed on the rec hall porch under a string of bulbs that attracted every moth in the county. Sarah leaned against the railing, hair tucked into a baseball cap. "You're good with the kids," she said. "Some people try too hard, you know. You don't." "Maybe I was one of them," Olivia said before she could stop herself. "The kids." Sarah tilted her head. "Where'd you grow up?" "Around," Olivia said, "mostly downstate." It wasn't a lie, not exactly. Lies were just truths with missing pages. Sarah let it go. "Hey," she said, changing the subject, "there's a Hollow Pines yearbook in the art cabin. The camp used to print one every summer. It's corny, but the kids love seeing old haircuts. Want to help me find it for photo day?" The word yearbook rang in Olivia's chest like a dropped coin. "Sure." They found it the next afternoon, wedged sideways on a paint-splattered shelf between tissue paper flowers and a jar of googly eyes. Years of Pines, gold-stamped on stiffer-than-necessary faux leather. Sarah flipped past sections with names like Canoe Champs and Best Pranks and Kitchen Crew. The pages stuck where summer had cured white glue into amber. "Look," Sarah said, tapping a page crowded with snapshots, "Kitchen staff 15 years ago." Olivia leaned in. A line of cooks posed in front of the service window, Second from the left, a woman with a cap pulled low, hair escaping in a gray braid, the same square jaw as May. The caption read, Dolores Alvarez, Nell Price, Klein, M. Rosa Ferreira. No first name for Klein, no smile. Along the edge, where heat had lifted the laminate, a sliver of another picture peeked through. Olivia slid a fingernail under the bubble. The laminate lifted. Beneath was a smaller photograph, grainy, barely 2 inches square, a little girl in a pink life vest, standing at the end of a dock, chin tilted, mid-laugh, eyes squeezed shut. "Hey," Sarah said light. "You okay?" Olivia let the laminate fall back. "Glue fumes," she said. "I'm fine." On her way out, she passed the kitchen, just as the back door rattled against its frame. Rain had slicked the porch, the threshold swelled. Dee shouldered the door hard and got it to catch. When she saw Olivia, she wiped her palms on her apron. "Storm coming," she said. "Kids'll bounce off the walls." Then, soft as a secret, "Some nights feel like other nights." "What nights?" Olivia asked. Dee met her eyes. "The ones people don't talk about." The second sign lived under a table. Counting forks after lights out, Olivia ducked with a flashlight and found a crescent carved into the underside of the bench. Careful, shallow, a child's secret. Her thumb traced the half-moon. The skin over her own scar answered with a hot prickle. "Find treasure?" Sarah stood in the doorway with 2 mugs. "Rain insomnia." "Just scratches," Olivia said, taking the tea. Sarah hesitated like she might say more about the town's rumor, and didn't. The rain wrote its long sentences on the windows. By morning, the storm had emptied. At the canoe racks, a whistle was missing from the gear tub. Olivia reached beneath the bench and closed her hand on a small metal whistle looped to a sun-bleached cord. On the cord, a plastic bead shaped like a crescent. The metal smelled faintly of pennies and lemon oil. A memory cracked open, May's hands guiding hers to stir batter, a hum like a lullaby, a whisper. "That's my brave girl, Livy. Don't wake the others." "Cool vintage," Sarah said. "You keeping it?" "Borrowing," Olivia said, pocketing it. Before lights out, the counselors took cabins to the fire ring for s'mores and stories. Sparks pinwheeled into the dark, marshmallows sagged off sticks. "No ghost tales," Jack warned, smiling toward the younger kids. "Keep it kind." But stories find their own paths. A boy asked if anyone had ever gone missing at Hollow Pines. The circle went tight quiet. Sarah cleared her throat. "Once," she said carefully, "a long time ago, a camper wandered off at night. After that we made rules, buddies, lights, head counts. We don't wander here." She glanced at Olivia as if to check whether she'd gone too far. "What happened to the camper?" another kid asked. "We don't tell sad endings at the fire," Sarah said, and passed the chocolate. The question hung over the embers, warm and stubborn. On the path back, Olivia's sandal kicked something small in the pine needles. She bent and pinched a bead from the duff. Plastic, moon-shaped, its cheap pearlescent coating flaking along the curve. She rolled it until it left her skin smelling faintly of lemon oil. By curfew, the lake lay flat as asphalt. From Bunk C, she could see the kitchen porch light halo, the rain-swollen door. Somewhere deep in the buildings, a compressor clicked on. The camp exhaled. She waited for the quiet to settle all the way, then took the long path behind the arts cabin, past the maintenance yard, toward the shed with the open lock. That night, camp slept hard. Olivia followed a low, steady hum to the maintenance shed and found a small radio glowing on a shelf, the padlock hanging open. A milk crate held lost and found from other summers, a torn camp shirt, a water bottle, a Polaroid face down. The shed smelled like cut grass and mineral oil. Dust lifted in the radio's weak glow. Rakes leaned like a tired choir against the wall. A coil of dock rope slumped in a blue bucket, damp in its heart. Someone had scrawled kid-tall names in Sharpie along a stud. Mike 2012, Alexis 2016, Lonnie 2019, and circled each with a shaky half-moon. She turned the Polaroid over. A kitchen passed through. A cake frosted pink. A name piped in a shaky hand, Levy. A wrist in the frame wore a bead bracelet with a missing piece the size of a crescent. Under the crate, a file folder jutted out. Incident, kitchen door. Inside, photocopies of reports with all signatures removed. The report pages were crisp despite their age, as if they had lived in a drawer that rarely opened. In the margins, someone had penciled tiny dots, one next to the time of the power flicker, another beside the note about head counts, as if counting breaths. A door found ajar at 2:13 a.m., a head count delayed by a power flicker. A note blacked out so hard it scored the paper. One line remained. Staff member K. Last seen exiting at 1:58 a.m. The radio hummed like a distant boat. She could feel her pulse in the scar. Footsteps scratched the gravel behind her. Olivia closed the file without turning. The doorway held a silhouette. What exactly are you hoping to find in there, Olivia? The next morning, Olivia woke before réveil. Mist still clung to the lake, smudging the shoreline into watercolor. She sat on the dock with the stolen whistle in her hand, rolling it until the cord bit into her palm. What exactly are you hoping to find? The question from last night echoed, but she hadn't turned to see who stood in the doorway. Her instinct said D. She pocketed the whistle when Sarah's sneakers crunched the gravel. "Couldn't sleep?" Sarah asked, breath fogging in the cool air. "Too much coffee," Olivia said. Sarah glanced at the whistle chain dangling from her pocket. "Vintage find?" Olivia nodded. "Lost and found shed." Sarah smiled thinly. "That place is a graveyard of summers." She kicked the dock post and looked out over the glassy lake. "You ever wonder what really happened back then?" Olivia kept her face calm. "Back when?" "You know," Sarah's voice was low. "The girl who vanished. People in town still whisper about it. Some say she drowned. Some say she was taken. I've never heard the same version twice." She shifted her weight, then added, "Jack doesn't like when people bring it up." Jack. The director, who had smiled too easily, whose eyes slid away from hers as if they might recognize something dangerous. Olivia said nothing. Later that day, she lingered in the kitchen after lunch. Dee was slicing bread, her knife steady, her lips moving to a silent hum. "You worked here long?" Olivia asked. Dee's knife paused. "Long enough." "Do you remember the summer a camper went missing?" The blade met the cutting board with a sharp crack. Dee's gaze fixed on her. "Some questions are best left alone." "Why?" "Because answers change things, and once you change them, you can't go back." Olivia forced herself not to look away. "What if that's the point?" Dee slid the bread into a tray and said nothing more. That night, Olivia returned to the maintenance shed. The radio still glowed. She flipped through the incident folder again. Pages rattled under her fingers. The same line caught her eye. Staff member K. Last seen exiting at 1:58 a.m. Klein, May's payroll stub. She copied the detail into her notebook, her hand shaking. A creak startled her. The shed door eased shut, cutting the moonlight. Jack's silhouette filled the gap. "Counselors aren't supposed to be here," he said, his voice even. "I couldn't sleep," Olivia replied, closing the folder quickly. Jack's eyes lingered on her notebook. "Curiosity is natural, but at Hollow Pines rules keep everyone safe. That shed is locked for a reason." She swallowed hard. "What reason?" Jack smiled without warmth. "Some doors don't open anymore. Good night, Olivia." He left, boots crunching gravel, until the sound died. Back in her cabin, she traced the crescent scar on her shoulder in the dark. If May was Klein, then May had been here that night. She hadn't just found Olivia, she'd taken her. But why? The yearbook photo of the cake surfaced in her memory. Pink frosting. The name Eliv. Who had baked it? Who had written that name? And whose hand years later, had slipped the Polaroid into the crate like a secret meant to be found. Her pulse pounded against the thin cabin walls. The campfire rule Sarah had spoken replayed in her head. We don't tell sad endings at the fire. But maybe Hollow Pines wasn't a story about endings. Maybe it was about beginnings no one had chosen to admit. She knew now answers existed, buried in yearbooks, in Dee's silence, in Jack's evasions. The summer had only just begun, and the truth was moving, restless, alive under the surface. She gripped the whistle in her fist until the bead cut a half-moon into her skin. Somewhere outside, the kitchen door slammed against its swollen frame. By the third week of camp, the lake had become a mirror Olivia couldn't stop staring into. Every head count she led, every canoe that drifted too far from the dock, her pulse hammered until she counted again. No child vanished under her watch. She would not allow it. But shadows moved differently at Hollow Pines. One afternoon, Sarah pulled her aside. "You need to see this," she said, clutching a manila envelope. They ducked into the arts cabin. The smell of paint and glue thick in the air. Sarah spread photographs across the table. Camp snapshots she'd borrowed from the yearbook closet. "Look at this one." Sarah tapped a photo of the dining hall. The image was old, colors washed thin. A birthday cake sat on the counter, pink butterflies iced across its surface. One candle glowing. Written in shaky frosting, "Anna." "Who's Anna?" Olivia asked, throat dry. Sarah frowned. "That's the weird thing. There's no Anna on the roster that year, no camper, no staff, and this." She held up a second photo. It was nearly identical, same cake, same counter, but the name read, "Liv." Same handwriting, same shaky loops. "They altered it," Sarah whispered. "Someone tried to cover something up." Olivia's chest tightened. Two names, one cake, one erased, one invented. That night, Olivia slipped into the kitchen after lights out. The air was damp with soap and onions, the hum of the refrigerator steady. Dee stood at the counter, hands deep in dough, sleeves rolled to the elbow. "Why was my name on that cake?" Olivia demanded, voice barely above a whisper. Dee's shoulders went rigid. "You need to leave this alone." "I can't. Tell me why my picture is in that yearbook. Tell me what Klein did that night." Dee's eyes glistened, flour streaked across her cheek. "She saved you." "From what?" Dee swallowed. Her hands trembled as she wiped them on her apron. "From your parents." The words crashed through Olivia like cold water. "My parents?" Dee nodded. "There were things you didn't know, things no child should have seen. May knew. She took you because she believed it was the only way to keep you safe." Olivia shook her head. "That doesn't make sense. People searched for me. They never stopped. They stopped because Jack told them to." Dee's voice cracked. "He made sure the report said you drowned. Said the kitchen door was found open, a head count delayed by the storm. He buried the truth to protect the camp's name." Olivia felt her knees weaken. "Jack knew?" Dee looked at her with eyes full of years of silence. "Jack knows everything." The next morning, Olivia confronted him on the dock, kids shouting in the distance. "Why did you lie?" she asked, her voice trembling. Jack's jaw tightened. "For the camp, for the town. People don't send their children to a place where they think monsters walk free." "What about me?" she demanded. "I was 7 years old?" Jack's eyes flicked to the scar on her shoulder. "And yet you're standing here, alive. Maybe you should thank her." "May?" "No," Jack said, his voice low. "Dee." The name hit Olivia like a blow. "Dee took me?" Jack's silence was the answer. Her world tilted. All this time she had believed May had stolen her. But the truth was sharper. May had taken her, yes, but she hadn't done it alone. Dee had been there. The woman humming in the kitchen, the one who now called her Livy in the dark, was the same woman who had opened that swollen door 14 years ago. And she wasn't just a staff member, she was blood. Dee was her mother's sister. Morning broke bright and ordinary, which felt like an insult. Olivia taught the younger cabins how to tie bowlines, the whistle warm in her pocket, the half-moon bead bumping her thigh with each step. Dee moved through the kitchen with a precision that looked like prayer. Jack's announcements came clipped, efficient, as if each word had to pass through a filter first. At lunch, Olivia set her tray on the counter and said, "We need to talk, not in here." Dee wiped her hands, unpinned her name tag, and followed Olivia out to the service porch. The swollen door sighed against its frame. "You were there," Olivia said, keeping her voice steady. "You opened this door 14 years ago." Dee's eyes searched her face like a map she used to know. "I opened it," she said, "because your mother couldn't." "My mother—" "Your mother was in no shape to protect you," Dee said. He was angry. And he had friends who wore ties and shook hands with Jack at fundraisers. He put his fingers on everything, including the narrative. "May told me if we wait for permission, she won't have a childhood left. So we made a plan." The words didn't land all at once. They arrived like rain hitting water, 1,000 ripples, then the shape beneath. "You took me to May," Olivia said slowly. "We took you away from him," Dee said. "May raised you because she could disappear better than I could. I stayed here to watch, to keep the story small." Her voice thinned. "Livy, I have called you that in my head every day since. Why didn't you come find us? I tried. May wouldn't answer the phone. She was afraid anyone near the camp would be watched. She was right." Jack closed ranks. Dee's mouth pressed into a line. If he had to choose between donors and truth, he chose donors. Olivia felt anger and gratitude dissolve into one another until she couldn't tell them apart. "And my mother?" Dee looked toward the lake. "She left, rehab downstate, then a shelter. She wrote 2 letters. I gave them to Jack to pass along." "Jack never did," Olivia said, feeling the certainty hit like a stone. "He kept them." Dee's silence was agreement. "Where is she now?" "Alive," Dee said. "Better. I think she's in Albany. I saw her name on a nurse registry once. She uses her maiden name. She never stopped asking me if—" The rest folded into the hum of the compressor. Olivia steadied herself on the railing. The porch boards held the ghost of her 7-year-old footsteps, the run-walk of small legs in the dark. She closed her eyes and saw a rectangle of lamplight on wet wood, felt a hand, whose, catching her elbow, heard a voice she could almost place. "Shh. Brave girl. Don't wake the others." "I need proof," she said, "not rumors, not kindness that got twisted into crime." Dee squared her shoulders. "Then we get it." They waited until lights out. Sarah covered Olivia's bunk check without asking why. "You'll tell me when you can," she said softly, and for the first time Olivia allowed herself to nod. In the rec hall office, filing cabinets lined the wall like gray refrigerators. Jack's key ring hung from a peg. He had left for town to meet with a vendor, according to the clipboard. Dee produced a duplicate key from a pocket sewn into her apron hem, a trick of old staff. The lock gave, reluctant, but not surprised. They worked in silence. Olivia took the metal drawer labeled Donors, 2010-2013. Dee knelt by incidents, misc. Paper rasped. Dust floated in the desk lamp's cone. Olivia found the ledger first. Donors' names, amounts, notes. There, her father's name. Circled, with a note in Jack's hand. Lake Safety Initiative. New dock lights. The date was 2 weeks after the incident. The number made Olivia's stomach tilt, money like a shutter slamming. Dee's intake of breath snapped her head up. "Found it!" She held a thin manila envelope addressed in a familiar, neat block script. M. Sullivan. Inside, 2 letters on hospital stationery, folded and refolded until the paper was soft. The top line said, "Dear Liv." The second said, "I am learning to be the kind of mother you deserved then." Olivia read until the words blurred. She pressed her fingers to the indentations where a pen had pressed too hard. Apologies, promises, a sentence about a half-moon pendant she had bought for a 7th birthday party that never happened. Anna, the letter said. I picked the name because it sounded like a beginning. Anna, Olivia whispered. The cake. 2 names. I was Anna. Dee's smile trembled. And you became Olivia when May needed to give you a future no one could trace. They didn't hear the outer door until it was too late. Jack filled the doorway, rain freckling his shoulders, eyes colder than the lake. Put those down, he said. Olivia slid the letters into the envelope, her body already choosing a shape that protected what mattered. You kept them, she said. You decided I didn't need to know my mother ever tried. I decided the camp didn't need to become a courtroom, Jack snarled. You think the world is kind of places with headlines? We would have closed. Hundreds of kids would have lost a summer because your parents brought their mess here. Because my father bought your silence. Jack's jaw worked. He took a step toward them. Dee took a step forward too, small but immovable. Not this time, she said. From the porch, a second set of footsteps. A flashlight beam sliced the room. Police, a voice called, calm and practiced. Mark Harris, got a call. Olivia's breath left her chest in a rush. The detective from years ago stood in the doorway, older, ring of keys at his belt, expression grave. I heard you were back, he said to Jack, then to Olivia. And I heard enough last time to regret the report I signed. He held up his phone. This time, we do it right. Jack laughed short and joyless. On what? Rumors and a damaged yearbook? On the ledger, Olivia said, laying the book on the desk. On the letters you withheld. On the incident file with names blacked out in your hand. On the kitchen door hardware you never replaced, even after the recall. She looked at Dee, who nodded, and produced a folded notice. A manufacturer recall for the model installed that summer. Dates matching the week. She vanished. Harris's pen moved. We'll need statements. We'll give them, Dee said. Jack's gaze flicked to the envelope in Olivia's hand, the ledger on the desk, the detective whose patience looked like granite. He made one last calculation and found no numbers left to add. He reached for his keys as if to leave. Harris said, Leave them, and Jack, don't leave town. For once Jack took an order he hadn't written. He dropped the keys on the desk. They rang against the metal like a small bell, like a start gun, like a thing that cannot be unheard. After statements stretched past midnight, Harris set the letters in an evidence sleeve and looked at Olivia the way people look at someone who has been carrying weight you can't see. You were a child, he said. What happened to you was a chain of adult choices. We'll pull every link. Outside, the rain had washed the camp clean. Sarah waited under the eaves, eyes searching Olivia's face. Are you okay? No, Olivia said honestly, but I'm more okay than yesterday. She handed Sarah the whistle. Hold this for me? Sarah turned it in her fingers, the half-moon bead catching porch light. You always liked moons, she said, then blinked as if surprised by the memory that had stepped out of the dark uninvited. 2nd grade. You drew them on everything. I was 7, Olivia said. I disappeared the week after. Sarah swallowed. I told a counselor your life vest didn't fit right. I still think about that. You told someone, Olivia said gently. That matters. Back in the empty rec hall, Olivia opened the second letter and read the line she had been afraid of and needed most. If you ever want me in your life, I will come at the speed of forgiveness. A phone number followed, ink smudged where a tear had fallen long ago. Dee hovered at the doorway, hands twisting in her apron. If you call her, she said, I will stand wherever you tell me to, outside the room, across the street, or right beside you. Olivia looked at the crescent scar, at the keys on the desk, at the place where Jack had stood, and the silence he left behind. She nodded once, small and final. Beside me. She dialed with hands that finally felt like her own. The line rang, once, twice. A sleepy voice answered, cautious and familiar all at once. Hello? Olivia swallowed. It's me, she said. It's... A breath on the other end, then a single word, breaking open years and stitching them in the same second. Anna? They met on a Sunday when the campers were on a field trip to the nature center, and the camp felt like a house that had set its laughter on the porch to air out. Harris arranged a small room off the rec hall, 2 chairs, a box of tissues, no one mentioned. Dee stood at the door with her hands folded, then moved a step back, then forward again, unable to choose a distance that felt right. The woman who walked in wore scrubs the color of sea glass, and a face that seemed to have learned kindness the hard way. She stopped like she had reached an invisible cliff. Her hand went to her mouth. "Anna," she said, the name careful as porcelain. Olivia's breath hitched. The name didn't fit exactly. It rested on her like a borrowed sweater that warmed her anyway. "I go by Olivia," she said. "But, yes." They sat. Every sentence felt like crossing a river on stepping stones that were just far enough apart to make your calves ache. Her mother, Elena, with a soft yell, said, "I left. I chose badly for too long, and when I finally chose you, someone had already chosen for me. I tried to send letters. I tried to get clean for the chance that one day I could hold you without you flinching." "I flinch at whistles," Olivia said, and they both laughed the kind of laugh that keeps a person from breaking. "And at doors that don't latch." Elena reached forward and stopped, palms up, like an offering. "Can I—" Olivia nodded. Their hands met in the middle, unsure at first, and then certain. The scar on Olivia's shoulder woke like a memory of light. Elena traced the air above it, not touching, reverent. "He grabbed you there," she said, voice flat the way voices get when the person has practiced not drowning in the sentence. "I told everyone you fell off a bike. That's what shame does. It translates." Dee exhaled a sound that might have been a sob. "I should have found a way—" "You found one," Elena said to her sister. "You found May." She looked at Olivia. "She loved you like a landing. I'll be grateful to her for the rest of my life." They talked until the light shifted across the floor. Harris brought forms, copies of forms he wished he had filed differently the first time, and explained what would happen to Jack. Investigation, a board meeting, the kind of quiet that comes before a resignation. Donor ledgers would become evidence. The kitchen recall would become a headline. "We can protect the camp and still tell the truth," he said, a man learning, late, that those two things are not opposites. When it was time to go, Elena stood and said, "I don't want to take anything from you, not your name, not your summers, not the family you made. I just want a phone number that works and permission to hope." Olivia wrote her number on the back of a camp brochure. She hesitated, then added a small crescent moon next to it. Elena smiled like a tide coming in. "I'll take that as a yes." In the days that followed, Hollow Pines practiced being honest. Jack resigned. An interim director posted a statement that did not say "unfortunate incident," but "we failed a child here. We are making sure we never fail another." The town held its breath and then began to exhale. Dee kept her job. Some parents hugged her in the dining hall line. Some looked away and then looked back, deciding. Sarah rewrote staff training with scripts for how to talk about safety without turning it into campfire myths. The kids didn't need the whole history. They needed better rules and adults who stood inside them. On the last night, the fire ring drew everyone like a magnet. The sky was so clear it looked polished. Olivia passed out the last marshmallows. When a boy asked, "Did anyone ever get lost here?" she knelt. "Once," she said. "People made mistakes. People told the truth later. Now we know how to keep each other safe. That's the point of rules, not to scare you, but to keep you close enough to count." After lights out, the counselors lingered on the dock. Sarah nudged her. "After August?" "Finish school," Olivia said. "Come back next summer? Maybe start a junior counselor program. Teach counting heads before stories." In the rec hall, a small box waited on the desk. Inside lay a half-moon pendant, chain newly mended. A sticky note in neat block letters, May's, had been saved beneath the lid. "For the day you need it." She slid the pendant on. It was light and heavy at once. Later, on the service porch, the door hung straight with new hardware. Dee laid a hand on it. "You have the keys now." Olivia lifted the ring Harris had given her. The metal chimed. "I'll use them." Night settled over Lake Placid like a held breath. The dock lights flickered once, twice, then steady, laying ladders of gold across water that no longer looked like a mouth that could swallow. A loon called. Olivia touched the pendant, felt the crescent warm under her skin, and finally let the breath go. The sound it made was the kind you hear when a story ends the way it should, not with a door slamming, but with one closing right and locking the way it was always meant to.